PP라는 두 가지 재질의 플라스틱을 모으고 있습니다. 보통 음식류에 사용되기 때문에 배달용기나 이런 곳에서 많이 볼 수 있고, 그리고 두 번째로는 저희가 업사이클 가공을 할 때 가장 유독물질이 덜 나오는 물질이기 때문입니다. 플라스틱을 많이 모으고 많이 제작하는 것이 목적이 아니다 보니까 저희는 시민분들한테 플라스틱 기부받고 리워드를 드리는 게 아니라 모아주신 플라스틱이 이렇게 재활용됐다는 걸 알리기 위해서 하는 프로젝트여가지고 이걸 약간 기부가 아닌 돌려드리는 개념으로 지금 하는 규칙을 사용하고 있는 것 같습니다. 불편한 거예요. 사실 이 플라스틱을 실제로 사용하는 걸 모으고 이걸 세척해서 가져오시고 하는 과정이 이 불편함을 사실 해주고 계신 것만으로도 저희는 되게 감사하죠. 나아가서 플라스틱을 사용하지 않을 수 있는 방법을 내는 것이 저희의 숙제이고요. 그리고 가장 중요한 건 이런 자원순환 활동에 있어서 시민 참여가 어떻게 얼마나 중요한 키워드로 적용이 되는지를 계속 말씀을 드리고 싶어요. 그래서 시민 참여 가이드를 조금 내는 게 저희의 목표이자 바람이라고 말씀드릴 수 있습니다. 나는 플라스틱을 순환시키는 그리너다.
It's February 19th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with automobile tariffs by the United States. President Donald Trump says the auto tariff rate will be around 25% or higher, adding details will be announced on April 2nd. U.S. and Russia agree to normalize their relations and appoint high-level teams to negotiate the end of the Ukraine war during their first round of peace talks in Saudi Arabia. Trump says he may meet his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin this month. The 10th and final hearing of President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment trial will take place as planned on Thursday after the Constitutional Court rejected Yoon's request to push back the date. His criminal trial proceedings also kick off on Thursday. U.S. President Donald Trump announced he'll likely impose a 25% tariff on cars coming into his country. The tariff also targets chips and pharmaceuticals, with the announcement coming as soon as April 2nd. Lee Seung-jae reports.
In his first month back in the Oval Office, U.S. President Donald Trump has been focused on taxing imports coming into the United States, citing unfair trade. During a press conference at Mar-a-Lago in Florida on Tuesday, he was asked about the specifics of automobile tariffs that he had hinted at earlier.
Yeah, I probably will tell you that on April 2nd, but it'll be in the neighborhood of 25%.
Trump also said that it's likely that he will announce a 25% tariff on chips and pharmaceuticals coming into the United States. However, with pharmaceuticals, he hinted that while it may be initially 25% or higher, it will go up significantly over the course of a year. Due to the massive tariffs that Trump plans on imposing, the U.S. leader said that major car and chip companies have already approached his administration, hinting that new plants are now likely to be built in the United States.
I do want to say while I'm up here, I've been contacted by some of the biggest companies in the world. And because of what we're doing economically and through tariffs and taxes and incentives, they want to come back into the United States. And we'll be announcing various very large companies, the biggest actually. And they'll be coming back having to do with chips and having to do also with cars and lots of other things. We're going to be.
Meanwhile, President Trump has commented on the North Korean troops who have fought alongside the Russian military in the Kursk region for the first time since taking office. According to Trump, many North Koreans have been killed fighting in the war. The comments also come as his administration is holding talks with Russian officials to discuss a plan to end the war in Ukraine. 이승재, Arirang News.
Steel and aluminum tariffs on all countries by March 12th, no exception there. And now, at least 25% automobile tariff starting in April. How can South Korea survive through Trump's tariff salvo this time? Let's turn to Professor Shin Myung-gyu this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
So at least a 25% tariff rate for automobiles. This should be another big concern for South Korea as the U.S. is a huge automobile export market to us, right?
Yes, it is really a big concern, and 25% hike in the tariff rate seems to be really huge. According to recent data, more than 50% of the automobile export from Korea is to the U.S. In particular, about 1 million automobiles were exported to the U.S., but only 40,000 were imported from the U.S., making a huge gap between export and import. Given that the Korean economy now heavily depends on the automobile industry, and about 30% of total exports were taken by this industry, this may be problematic because it can potentially drag down the Korean economy further.
Well, that is why, as far as the Deputy Minister for Trade, Park Jong-won, he is over in Washington to sort things out with U.S. trade officials. Do you think it's too late to try to make deals with the U.S. on tariffs and trade-related matters, or, better late than never?
Yeah, I don't think it's too late because the Trump administration will continue to push foreign countries to boost trade competitiveness of the U.S. There are many industries, like the automobile industry, for example, that have been really important for the U.S. economy for a long time, especially by taking important roles in creating jobs, but have lost their competitiveness in the global market. So I think this seems to be sustained. So the Trump administration will implement even higher tariffs on the other goods that experience large trade deficits. So I think this is not late that much.
Definitely. Steel, aluminum, automobile, and chips and pharmaceuticals will be on the way as well. Now, according to Bach, he'll be aiming to engage in what he calls mutually beneficial discussions with Washington. Now, what kind of strategies do you think Bach has ready to use? I mean, what is it that Seoul needs to work on the most and right now?
Yeah, I think the most important task that the Deputy Minister for Trade is to persuade the U.S. officials with the logic and the data that raising tariff is not the way to improve the state of the U.S. economy. For example, France really reacts to the policy changes as we have seen for the last several days on the steel industry that has already undergone the higher tariff rate. The firms in the U.S. already respond to the higher tariff rate by increasing the price that they charge, which does not improve their competitiveness in the market, but only increase the inflation rate again. And I think having patience with the negotiation procedure is also necessary because the U.S. officials will not agree on the negotiation very soon.
Well, in addition to government officials, a business delegation is also heading to the U.S. today with investment cooperation plans, including, increasing imports of American energy and also collaboration in the shipbuilding sector. Now, this is offering the U.S. what we have and hope for the best. This is a lesson that we learned from the first Trump administration.
Yes, as you pointed out, we have already experienced the Trump administration more than 4 years ago. It pushes the country using the negotiation power that it has, and as a small open economy like Korea, that heavily depends on the U.S. and export. What we can do best is to offer the U.S. what we can do best, like constructing the factories in the U.S. and offshoring to the U.S. or something like that. So it'll make some sacrifice.
Well, are you saying that we need a plan that increases imports, from the U.S. while reducing actual damage? I mean, what could that plan be? Is it just more importing more American cars or American goods to South Korea?
Yes, in principle, yeah, it's possible, but to me, it's not that easy to increase import from the U.S. only by the will of the government. First, effective tariff rate on many goods imported from the U.S. is already almost zero, implying that lowering price cannot be the solution for the U.S.-produced goods, say cars, to increase their market shares in Korea. Second, consumer demand is also determined at the market based on the quality of the goods and the price competitiveness or something like that. So the government cannot alone boost the demand for the U.S. cars. So my point is that it should be the U.S. funds that attract consumers in Korea by boosting their competitiveness over the other goods, not the Korean government. But we can still make the effort, but I'm not sure if that's that effective.
So increasing more goods from the U.S. may not be the ultimate solution to deal with this whole tariff salvo. Professor Shim, thank you so much for sharing your insight with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And in other news, the S&P 500 closed at a record high on Tuesday as markets awaited the minutes of the Federal Reserve's January monetary policy meeting. The S&P 500 rose 0.2% to stand at 6,129 points. This comes ahead of the Federal Open Market Committee minutes released for Wednesday afternoon, which could contain clues about how long the Fed will keep rates unchanged. At the Fed's meeting last month, it decided to leave its benchmark lending rate unchanged following 3 straight cuts, saying inflation remained somewhat elevated. Both U.S. and Russian officials walked out of their first peace talks on Ukraine with confidence and satisfaction on Tuesday. U.S. President Donald Trump even hinted that he would meet Russian President Vladimir Putin before the end of February. Peunji has more.
Top diplomats of the United States and Russia held talks in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday, marking their first formal meeting aimed at ending the Ukraine war since it began 3 years ago. Following the meeting that lasted around 4.5 hours, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told reporters that he's convinced Russia is willing to engage in a serious process of ending the conflict, and said this was the first step of a long and difficult journey.
In order to bring an end to any conflict, there has to be concessions made by all sides.
Rubio's Russian counterpart described the conversation as useful, but said his country will not accept NATO troops in Ukraine as part of any peace deal.
We explained today that the presence of troops from NATO countries under a foreign flag, under the flag of the European Union, or under national flags, it does not change anything. This is, of course, unacceptable to us.
The two countries decided to hold more talks on ending the war and also agreed to work toward improving ties. Following the talks, Rubio held phone calls with his counterparts from the UK, France, Germany, and Italy, in an apparent move to reassure the European countries over concerns that they may have no place in the peace negotiations. Meanwhile, as Ukraine was not invited to Tuesday's peace talks, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said negotiations to end the war in Ukraine should not take place behind the backs of the parties involved.
You can talk about anything, but no decision can be made without Ukraine on how to end the war in Ukraine. We were not invited to this meeting, the US-Russia meeting in Saudi Arabia. It was a surprise for us, as well as for many.
In response, U.S. President Donald Trump dismissed Kyiv's concern about being left out and almost suggested that Ukraine was to blame for a war that began only after Russia's invasion.
But today I heard, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal.
Trump also hinted that he may meet Russian President Vladimir Putin this month. As he walked out of the press conference in Mar-a-Lago, he answered probably, when asked if he still expected to meet Putin before the end of this month. 배은지, Arirang News.
At the Constitutional Court, the 9th hearing of President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment trial took place on Tuesday, with justices dismissing Yoon's request to adjust his 10th hearing date, as his criminal trial proceedings also begin the same day. Our Oh Seung has more.
The Constitutional Court rejected President Yoon Suk-yeol's request to rearrange one impeachment hearing, which coincides with the start of his criminal trial proceedings this week. On Tuesday, during the president's 9th trial hearing, Acting Chief Justice Moon Young-bae said the 10th session on Thursday will go ahead as planned, dismissing a request by Yoon's team to hold the session next week, as the Seoul Central District Court will begin the president's pre-trial hearings for his criminal case on Thursday morning.
While there's criticism that the overlapping date weakens Yoon's right to legal self-defense, the Constitutional Court has decided to push through with Thursday's hearing at 3 p.m, an hour later than initially planned, stating that Yoon's criminal trial begins at 10 a.m.
During Tuesday's hearing, legal representatives of the National Assembly and President Yoon further made their case for and against impeachment. The Assembly's panel called for Yoon's swift removal from office, saying the declaration of martial law and related decrees were illegal as they did not go through cabinet procedures, and accused them of dictatorial actions.
This is a direct attack on the principles of the rule of law and the separation of powers. From the perspective of constitutional protection, it is an absolutely unacceptable act.
Yoon's side continued to argue that declaring martial law was a constitutional right of the president and that the opposition-led parliament had forced his hand.
The opposition paralysed the judiciary, legislature and administration with its countless impeachments, interference with the Constitutional Court's composition, reckless budget cuts, legislative manoeuvres to shield its leader Lee Jae-myung, and obstruction of government policy bills. In a short amount of time, the president initiated a martial law that was constitutional, legal and peaceful as a plea to the people.
They further raised suspicions of false ballot papers and potential Chinese interference, causing electoral irregularities as a pretext for declaring martial law. Yoon's lawyers say they will review on Wednesday whether there's further evidence and witnesses to present. The 10th hearing on Thursday will feature 3 witness examinations, including with Prime Minister Han Duck-soo. Former intelligence official Hong Jang-won will return to the court for further questioning, this time by Yoon's legal team. National Police Agency Chief Cho Ji-ho will be forced to attend after 2 absences due to illness. Experts say the court is likely to add one more hearing to hear the closing arguments and the president's final statement. Yoon on Tuesday decided to return to the Seoul Detention Center and sit out the 9th hearing. If the trial concludes next week, a ruling will be made in the first half of March. In past presidential impeachment trials, a verdict was reached within 2 weeks. Oh Seung, Arirang News.
The Constitutional Court will hold the first impeachment trial hearing for Prime Minister Han Duck-soo and a separate hearing on the dispute over whether voting standards to impeach him were valid. The opposition-led parliament voted to remove him from office in December after Han, as acting president, refused to approve Constitutional Court justices until a bipartisan agreement was reached on the candidates. Han has also shown resistance to various opposition-led bills railroaded
through Parliament. The dispute case was filed by the ruling People Power Party as it clashed with the opposition over the required number of votes to impeach Han Duck-soo. The opposition argues that the standard for impeaching a cabinet member should apply, requiring a simple majority. The ruling party says as Han was acting president, the same threshold as a presidential impeachment should have applied, which requires a 2/3 majority. Now, the first trial hearing will begin at 2 p.m. today, and the authority dispute hearing is at 4 p.m. Subscription services are showing strength in the consumer market, with a recent survey showing that 94.8% of respondents have experienced using subscription services. According to the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry on Wednesday, a survey on consumer subscription service usage conducted with Macromill Embrain on 1,000 adults nationwide showed that video streaming services led the way, with 60.8%, followed by shopping membership at over 52%. And nearly 40% of the respondents have subscribed to 3 to 4 different services. The survey also showed that the service that those in their 20s and 30s want to subscribe the most is generative AI, while those in their 40s, 50s, and 60s prefer subscriptions to health and home products. A special ceremony was held this week to celebrate students overcoming rare muscular and respiratory diseases. Just like Stephen Hawking, these individuals have defied the odds in the pursuit of knowledge. Our Kim Jong-sil went to their celebration.
A ceremony honored young individuals with muscular dystrophy who continue to pursue education. This rare type of disease can affect movement, speech, and even breathing. However, with personalized care at Yeonsei Gangnam Severance Hospital's Pulmonary Rehab Center, they've overcome numerous challenges.
한국의 호킹들을 축하하는 이 귀한 자리에 입학생 대표로서 축사할 수 있는 기회를 허락해 주셔서 진심으로 감사드립니다.
20-year-old Ji-sung has been a patient at this hospital since he was a child. Still undergoing treatment, Ji-sung will start university as a freshman next month.
In the past, my breathing difficulties made daily life very uncomfortable. But now, I'm able to deliver a speech like this and take part in events and school activities, which is truly wonderful.
The perseverance of these students has been made possible by the medical support of experts like Professor Kang Sung-woong, a leader in this field.
Watching these students overcome their struggles makes me realize what I'm going through is not a big deal. While I help my patients, I've received a lot of help myself.
Professor Kang also shared his approach to treating his patients.
Just like how a weak leg requires a cane for support, these patients need specialized breathing support. My goal is to help them choose the right breathing method so they can continue their social activities and lead fulfilling lives.
These students' achievements prove that with the right care and determination, anything is possible.
He has grown up healthily and has worked harder on his studies than we ever expected. We are proud and very grateful.
The resilience of these students paves the way for a bright future and serves as an inspiration to never give up. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
Now let's take a look at the stories from around the world with our Choi Ji-hee. Good morning, Ji-hee.
Good morning, Tommy.
So, Ji-hee, let's begin with the talks between the leaders of India and Qatar. What are the latest developments?
Right. India and Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Qatar's Emir have elevated bilateral relations to a strategic partnership. During Qatar Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani's two-day official visit to New Delhi, both leaders signed an agreement establishing the partnership, reflecting their commitment to deepening cooperation across various sectors. While the current trade volume between the two nations stands at approximately $14 billion, the new partnership aims to increase the figure to $28 billion by 2030. Discussions also included the potential signing of a free trade agreement to facilitate more active economic changes. exchanges. Also, both countries signed a revised double taxation avoidance agreement aimed at fostering a more conducive environment for business and investment. Polish President Andrzej Duda announced Tuesday that the United States had assured Poland that there would be no reduction in American troop presence in Eastern Europe. Duda said U.S. officials, including Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Ukraine envoy Keith Kellogg, confirmed the U.S. commitment to maintaining its current military presence in Eastern Europe. Currently, approximately 10,000 U.S. troops are stationed in Poland, which is an increase following Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. The U.S. established its first permanent military base in Poland in 2023. The assurance aligns with Poland's ongoing efforts to bolster its defense capabilities and underscores the strategic partnership between the two countries. It comes against the backdrop of heightened security concerns in Eastern Europe regarding potential threats from Russia. The Vatican on Tuesday confirmed that Pope Francis has been diagnosed with bilateral pneumonia. The Pope, aged 88, has been hospitalized at Rome's Gemelli Hospital since February 14th, initially diagnosed with bronchitis, which worsened after a week. While the Vatican reports that the Pope continues to receive treatment and is in good spirits, all public engagements have been canceled. Pope Francis has a history of lung infections and had part of his right lung removed when he was young. Chinese tech giant Huawei unveiled on Tuesday its trifold smartphone outside China. The Mate XT Ultimate design is the first phone in the world to feature a dual hinge system, where the flexible OLED display can expand from a compact 6.4 inches to a tablet-like 10.2 inches when fully unfolded. It operates on Huawei's proprietary software instead of Google services. The Mate XD's starting price point is approximately $3,660 and is currently listed for sale in several countries, including Malaysia and Saudi Arabia. Pre-orders have reportedly surpassed 6.5 million units.
Winter is still holding on tight, and even though we are hoping for spring to make an entrance, the bitter cold and dry weather continues across much of Korea. Feels like temperatures in the capital were minus 10 degrees Celsius earlier this morning. It's chilly and very dry out there. More regions are under dry weather alerts, and even east of Seoul is under dry weather advisory. Meanwhile, the west coast and Jeju Island are under a strong wind advisory. And these are ways to boost indoor humidity naturally. But if you're heading out, keep your moisturizer handy and drink plenty of water. A little extra hydration goes a long way. Afternoon highs will be 1 to 2 degrees lower today, topping out at 1 degree in Seoul. Daegu at 5 degrees under mostly sunny skies with decent air quality. Looking ahead, this cold, dry pattern will stick around for the rest of the week and into the weekend. Temperatures will start trending milder early next week, so until then, stay warm and hydrated.
That wraps it up for us this morning. New Day at Arirang will be back tomorrow at the same time, 10 a.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.
How to survive in Korea. Barbecue restaurants. Step 1. Taking care of your clothes. Put your jacket in the plastic bag. Seal it tight. If the stool flips open, store your clothes inside. Wearing light colors? Grab an apron. It's the best defense against oil splatter and smoke. Step 2. Bottomless side dishes. Basic side dishes at a barbecue restaurant. Eat, and eat as much as you want. Side dishes come with free refills. Oh, and if you don't see this sign, just ask, 사장님, 여기 밑반찬 좀 더 주세요. Simple, isn't it? Step 3. Grilling meat. There are various kinds of samgyeopsal in Korea. Place the meat on the grill. Turn it over when golden. And again when it looks done. Again and again and again. Step 4. Sam style. You aren't taking bites of sam like a taco, are you? In Korea, we have it in one bite. A pro tip here. Add only as much as you can handle in a bite. Gotta avoid awkward situations. Step 5. Enjoy the perks. After the meal, enjoy the perks offered as a Korean restaurant. Fabric refreshers get rid of the barbecue smell, while mint candies freshen your breath. Did you survive the barbecue restaurant? Hang on. Are you here with someone you want to impress? Then let's skip the garlic. Who knows what will happen?
Hi, Chef Ryan here. Today we're making gomak muchim with a plump and chewy winter cockle and a savory soy-based sauce.
We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
bring news just for you. It's Wednesday, February 19th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yoo-jin, and you're watching News Generation. Joining us today is Park Ki-yoon.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And Kang Moon-ju.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. Now, both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. So we're going to begin with our keyword news of the day. Our keyword for this Wednesday is Netflix. The streaming giant has reached a new milestone in South Korea, hitting a record number of users last month. According to data from analytics firm Wise App Retail, 14.16 million people were subscribed to Netflix in January, breaking its previous record of 13 million set in December 2024. Trailing behind was Coupang Play with a 7.6 million users, followed by TVing and Wave in third and fourth place. So are you subscribed to Netflix, Moon-ju, and what do you think is driving this record-breaking popularity of the app?
Of course, I am a subscriber to Netflix. I think this record-breaking popularity is definitely attributed to TV series, especially Korean original ones that Netflix is continually producing right now. Dramas such as Squid Game 2 or The Trauma Code, which just recently ended, or the variety show Singles Inferno, which also just completed its 4th season and is planning on shooting the 5th one, are primary examples of it. I don't want to say it is all about the content, but I think I have to say it's mostly about the content, because that's the primary reason why the streaming platforms exist. So I think it's mostly the K-content that Netflix is continuously producing these days.
Right, because if there is more attractive content, then people naturally like to subscribe to that service.
Yeah, exactly.
What about you, Kim? Are you a subscriber of Netflix?
Of course, who's not? And the numbers speak for themselves. And I also heard that Netflix aggressively invests in South Korea among other countries, because they bring in a very, very big profit margin, even compared to a lot of investment made in the US in terms of dramas and even movies. So South Korea is a very cost-effective investment country for Netflix, and that's why I think it gives a lot of content creators in Korea a lot of room to be a bit more creative, and they have a bit more time because they have the investment. They don't have to find investors because they already have a big amount of capital to work with. And also, I think Netflix is a great streaming platform, #1 obviously in the world, but there's also Coupang Play, which is owned by a Korean company. And I think Coupang Play is on a great path as well, because they're showing live streaming of a lot of sports games, including a lot of soccer games, overseas soccer games, European soccer games, which I'm a big fan of as well. So I watch Coupang Play as well, along with Netflix, but I think Netflix is going to continue to invest more and more in South Korea.
Right, and we might see viewership even expanding more, as Netflix is slated to release the 3rd and final season of Squid Game this June. And that was our keyword news for this Wednesday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion of the day. Wednesday means it's time to explore the latest lifestyle trends among our generation. Take a look at the screen for more on today's topic. Recent data has revealed some disappointing employment figures here in Korea. The number of employed individuals last month dropped by more than 50,000 compared to the same period last year, suggesting a tough job market. How are young people navigating these challenging times? So just like the cold winter air this season, Korea's job market remains frozen, as figures show. So the age group facing the harshest impact from this are those in their 20s and 30s, in other words, our generation. So how are job seekers responding to this uncertain job landscape, Kyun?
Right, so the MZ generation has often been seen as, by our older generations, as having high expectations, with many choosing to remain unemployed if they can't secure a job at a major corporation or even a public enterprise of their choice. However, recent statistics suggest a shift in this trend. Job seekers are increasingly prioritizing employment itself over targeting specific companies. And according to a survey by a career platform called Saramin, 55.2% of respondents stated that they would take any job as long as they can secure employment. And this was followed by people wanting to join SMEs and startups, accounting for 15.1%, then mid-sized companies, 12.1%, then in public sectors, 8.4%, or large conglomerates, only accounting for 7.3%. So I think that's a big drop in the preference of actually wanting to join big companies like Samsung and LG. So there's definitely a big shift in employment preference.
This is definitely a big change because I remember before on Newsden we talked about how the older generation kind of views the younger generation as being picky when it comes to finding a job, but now it seems that's not the case.
Beggars can't be choosers now.
Right. So Bunjo, are you also witnessing something similar?
Yeah, of course. The trend of how MZ generation seeks jobs has shifted, as just Guillaume mentioned, and major cause or the reason why MZ job seekers cannot be picky anymore, I think, is because they're getting exhausted from this prolonged job search process. So searching for a job is indeed a marathon rather than a sprint these days. So it's coming out of college, they need to earn at least the basic living costs as soon as possible. And also while companies are tightening their wallets, there are so many people, increasing number of job seekers in South Korea. So that's why this process is getting so prolonged, and consequently it has become somewhat inevitable for the younger generation to turn their eyes away from their aspiring companies they wanted to work for. But and they have to they have to go to companies that are looking for them, they're searching for them, they want them. So I think that's how the trend has been shifted compared to past and right now.
So it's definitely not the best time for job seekers to go on job hunting. But despite these difficulties, young job seekers are doing everything they can to secure employment. For example, adapting to new strategies and approaches. So we're now going to broaden our discussion and break down how they are tackling the job search. So first off, where do they typically turn to find job-related information?
So growing up in the digital age, Gen Zs especially turn to short forms to gather employment information. This is according to another survey by a recruitment platform called Catch. So let's take a look at the screen for more details. Please do note there were multiple responses. And as you can see, 49% responded to searching for jobs through short forms, followed by 33% turning to long forms, and only 31% searching through text. So the main reason for using short forms was because obviously they could attain key information in less time, followed by it being very fun and easy. And this reflects the younger generation's tendency to heavily rely on digital platforms like using our smartphones, as they want quick, immediate access to the information they want in a fun and entertaining way at the same time.
Wow.
So they're very picky in a way. That's why big companies have caught on this trend and started utilizing short forms to reach out to young job seekers through short forms so that they can actually start applying for their companies.
This is a very notable change because back when I applied for Arirang, I saw the notice on Arirang's website. It was not short form. It was like a very long notice on the website. But now they're utilizing short forms to reach out to young job seekers, which is quite a big change. So once they find the opportunities now through short forms, long forms, or still texts, Bunja, how are they preparing for the big step, which is job tests and also job interviews?
Yeah, how they prepare has changed due to high inflation and digitalization. So study groups now meet virtually, and people even take profile photos through AI programs. So in fact, more than 400 open chat rooms are listed when searching for it, like job interview preparation or something. And there is a long queue for generating AI profile photos. And meeting in person, in fact, incurs space costs, right? But virtual meetings, obviously through open chat rooms or other online platforms, could save you a lot of money for you. And similarly, using apps for profile pictures is much more cost effective when you do it through a AI generation applications rather than photo studio. So that's how the change has been arriving these days.
So using cutting edge technology like AI or virtual meeting programs, that is once again quite a very notable change. Besides what Bunja mentioned, Kyun, are there any other things that kind of caught your attention?
Remote interviews have become more common, especially after the pandemic.
Oh, right.
And some companies now even use AI for interviews. And as a result, preparing for virtual interviews has become another challenge for job seekers, young job seekers, that is. And true to Korea's reputation as a country with a strong private education culture, many candidates attend specialized academies called hagwon to prepare for job interviews. And these academies provide tailored training based on different industries and job roles. And even in some cases, candidates also use past interview questions shared by previous applicants to better anticipate what they might be asked in the interview. And furthermore, it is common for job seekers to seek professional help in reviewing and refining their resumes and personal statements.
And talking about professional help, it seems that the government has also stepped in to extend a helping hand to all these job hunters. So I want to ask you, what initiatives are currently taking place to support job seekers out there?
Right, so with a rising number of young people either unemployed or working ultra short hours, local governments have introduced various support measures. For example, the Ministry of Employment and Labour continues to provide education and counselling services to help job seekers. And also, while it varies by region, many local governments also offer financial assistance to help cover living expenses for the job seekers.
That would be a great help to all those job seekers out there. Are there any other more support measures, Munju?
Yeah, just adding on, many local governments provide free suits needed for the interviews, and also they cover the cost of hair and makeup, which is kind of costly.
Yeah, they can be
right?
really expensive.
Yeah, they're very expensive.
Especially for women.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Do the hair and the makeup.
It's about twice as for men.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah,
Very costly.
And also there are also many virtual centers available for remote interviews.
It's very good to know that there are all these support measures out there. Now, Ki-yoon and Munju both introduced programs that provide assistance with resume building and interview preparation. Now, both steps are crucial in landing a job, but which one do job seekers struggle with more and want help? We asked this question to our viewers, whether they find crafting a resume or acing an interview more challenging. And let's take a look at the results. We ran a poll through our Arirang News YouTube channel with the question, what do you find more challenging when job hunting? 55% answered the interview process, while 45% said crafting a strong CV and resume. We're going to take a look at some comments. Our first comment for this Wednesday, Benny D97, I find the interview process harder because the questions are sometimes difficult and require critical thinking to answer. After Rain 25, also the interview process is tougher because you can't prepare for everything that might come up and you still have to show your skills under pressure. Our last comment for this Wednesday, Viva La Orange, a resume is often the first thing an employer sees and you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So a strong resume is more important to stand out from other qualified candidates and secure an interview in the first place. Up next, for a global perspective on this issue, we'll be joined by a young person from Uzbekistan to share her insights on how job seekers in her country are preparing to land a job. We'll be right back.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search our channel Arirang News. Click Community and leave a comment down below. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us on this Wednesday morning is Madina Gaibuleva, a millennial from Uzbekistan. Great to have you back on the show, Madina.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. So
happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. So, Madina, we would first like to ask you, in your country, Uzbekistan, how do young people typically search and prepare for a job? We want to ask you whether the process is similar or different from what we've discussed about Korea's job market on the top of our show.
Well, in Uzbekistan, searching for a job seeking, I can say that it's more similar with Korea. Because we also look for a job from the online platforms like Job Korea, Saramin, but in Uzbek version, so we call it like HH-Uz or Rabota-Uz. It's in Uzbek platforms. Also, we have many opportunities to share it in Telegram channels or in LinkedIn platform. Also, and there we have universities, career centers. They connect students with the employers, and of course I have to tell about networking, how it's important, a recommendation from your friends, from your family, or from your last company. It can help you to get a good job. And what about preparation for work? Preparation also is similar to Korean because many students, they try to get extra additional certificates like in IT or in business or language courses, mostly English. And nowadays there are the number of Korean companies increasing a lot in Uzbekistan, so Korean language also is becoming one of the important foreign language. Also, many companies, they offer to students internship or volunteering jobs where people can get experience. And also, people, they improve their soft skills and the resume building. So they attend to the interviews and they attend to the courses where they can get more information how to feel and how to build their CV.
Right, Medina, from your perspective, what do you think is the most critical factor in landing a job? For example, is it academic credentials, previous experience, networking, or even something else?
I think in Korea, networking plays a crucial role to get a job because many opportunities found through the personal connections rather than the only online applications. And because companies value recommendations from the trusted individuals, so building strong relationship in Korea. And I mean, career relationship in Korea, it's really important. And also, I think it's more important to attend the industry events, joining business communities, and staying active on platforms like Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn. And also, there are a lot of job groups among the foreigners, so where you can just look for a job on Facebook maybe, and yeah, it can significantly increase the job prospects.
Yeah, I agree. Our last question for you today is there any words of advice or useful tips you'd like to share with job seekers struggling to secure employment?
Thank you for your question. I think my advice will be to job seekers is actively engage with the professional in their field, seek mentorship, and not hesitate to reach out the information interviews. In Korea, who you know can be as just important as what you know. Try to be active in social media as LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, and make your CV professionally. Look and apply for jobs which suits with your experience and background, and never give up. Also, learning more extra skills, new skills, study in necessary courses which needed in your field will be helpful.
Well, thank you for the great advice, and thank you for your time today, Medina.
Thank you for having me in Arirang TV. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so ending off, finding the right job is a goal that many of us hold close to our hearts, and especially in uncertain times like these, securing employment feels even more rewarding and meaningful. So as we wrap up today's episode, for all the job seekers watching, could you please share a word of encouragement?
Well, that's a very tough question. You know, the job market is very tough at the moment, especially here in Korea. Just to begin, not many companies are hiring at this time, which means there's not much space for job seekers to actually even secure an interview to start with. And I know it's a long process. You have to get your resume, CV, personal statement, and get ready for everything. And you have to look beautiful, presentable, and that can also be very costly. And I also think right now, landing the perfect job can be very difficult, and it's going to take time. And as we've talked about today, many of them have become very tired, and they just want any kind of job just to be employed. And I've realized that a lot of youngsters, they don't tend to stay at one single job company for the rest of their lives or working careers, as our parents' generation did. So I think just start somewhere instead of just actively being discouraged, and maybe you can kind of lower your standards as well. I realize that a lot of Koreans they're overeducated, they're overskilled. That's why they want that land that perfect job, but there isn't much opportunity to begin with. So maybe just spread your kind of expectations around and just try somewhere, start somewhere. It can be a part-time job, and any kind of work experience can really help you develop your soft skills as well. And like Medina said, networking is very important in Korea.
Right.
It's called inmek, and that can be also part of your skill to land a better job in the future. So don't hesitate, be more active, meet new people, and just try any kind of job. Or you can just freelance like me, and I'm really enjoying this.
Of course, and that can ultimately lead to the job that you want if you start from somewhere. And what kind of advice would you like to give, Moonju?
Gi-hyun just gave you all the advice, so I'll just give you some like encouragement statements. So securing a job, especially if it's a full-time, but also like part-time, as Gi-hyun just said, it's getting harder and more stressful. But remember, life is a journey, it's not a race. So every step you take, no matter how small it is, you're just getting closer to your final destination. So even if it feels like you're moving away from your final destination, it's just another step in like honing your skills, right? So keep moving forward at your own pace. Every people has different pace. They have their individual pace that fits them best. And cherish the moments that make the journey worthwhile. And someday you're going to be at your final destination and enjoying your life.
And the most important thing is to never give up. And that wraps up this episode of News Generation, but we will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. Special thanks to Park Yoon.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. And Kang Moon-ju.
Thanks for having me today.
Thank you. And to our viewers, thank you for the privilege of your time, and hope we'll see you tomorrow as well. We are News Generation.
How to survive in Korea. Workplace. Step 1. Lunchtime. The most important morning routine is to check today's menu. Food is essential.